What's going on, my guys? It's your boy Malcolm Eugene, and well, considering the topic of this video, technically, I'm a supervillain. So let's just get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about the fanboyism culture in what seems to be the camera industry. It's really getting out of hand. You know, recently I've joined many different camera groups. All that I am seeing is bashing one camera over the other. First thing I'm gonna say is the brand. The brand of camera you shoot with does not really matter at all. What does matter is the purpose. If the point or purpose of you going out is to take photos, doesn't matter if you're shooting mirrorless, doesn't matter if you're shooting DSLR, you're gonna get good quality results. Now, depending on which tool that you are using, you may have easier times doing this, or you may have more difficult times doing this, but either way, you're going to end up in a place where the results are gonna be amazing. And that's saying if you're printing the photos. If you are uploading them to, say, Facebook or Instagram, then at that point, it doesn't really matter because the compression rates on those websites is just gonna kill quality anyway. So brand does not really matter at all. Brand loyalty, let's talk about that. So I'm hearing a lot of people talking about switching camera brands and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay, you spent tens of thousands of dollars on glass for a particular brand just for you to go off and take a loss on it to switch brands. I don't see that as being something that is worth it in the long run unless it is something that you need specifically to run your business professionally. For me, I switched over from Nikon to Sony because I began to shoot more and more video, and at the time, Sony had the best video quality and specs for me. And side note, as much as I'd like to have all the Sony G Master glass and microphones and all this, that's fine and dandy, but I'm pretty happy with my Tamron Zoom Trinity. I mean, it was pretty much half the price, damn near, for all three lenses, and it's good enough for what I shoot right now. Now, down the line, I may need to upgrade, I may see quality control issues, but at the moment, it's good enough for me. So what I am saying is, OEM, not really mandatory at that point. Buy the tools that help you complete the job. The second thing, do not be fooled by the marketing. So a lot of people are extremely pissed off that the Canon R5, which was marketed as a video camera with 8K specs, and then the reviewers got their hands on it and they start to have little issues with that. But what was left in the shadows was the fact that it was an amazing photo camera. 45 megapixels at the frame rate that it shoots at is an amazing photo camera compared to what they currently have on the market right now. I look at it like this. With the A7S III being marketed as a video camera and succeeding in that, could you imagine if it was marketed as a photo camera? It would get probably almost the same amount of flack that the Canon R5 would get, or R6 would get, because it's what, only 12 megapixels. I mean, it takes photos, but it's not intended to be a photo camera. It's a video-centric mirrorless camera. Let's talk about 8K and how 8K is probably the most 2020 spec ever, considering of how unnecessary it is. All right, so if I can remember correctly, Nikon about 2, 3, 4 years ago released the D850. And the big, well, let me not say big, but it was a mention in their press release that it shot 8K time-lapse. And in my mind, with it being a 45 megapixel sensor, no shit, Sherlock. The same with the Canon R5. Yeah, 45 megapixels, 8K time-lapse, whatever. But 8K video, I just feel like overhyped spec. I feel like even earlier this year with the Samsung S20 Ultra smartphone, 8K in a smartphone. As far as resolution in non-cinema camera bodies, I don't see the novelty in that. It's a weird place that we're in, though. It's like we used to be in this whole megapixels war game. Now we're in a kind of a resolution like war, and for video at least, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. I feel like dynamic range is a little more important than the amount of Ks that it can shoot, because most people do not have the horsepower to even edit such footage. They just want it to have it. That's the problem here. A lot of people are out here comparing these mirrorless cameras to cinema cameras. And granted, the mirrorless cameras have come a long way as far as technology is concerned. You know, they can do a lot of things that cinema cameras can do and can't do, per se, like take photos. But at the end of the day, they are photo cameras initially. Maybe not photocentric, but they are still photo cameras. Which kind of segues me into my next point. Growing pains. So with the Canon R5 and R6, it's kind of Canon's second, probably 2.5 generation into the mirrorless game. You know, it came with the R, then the RP. Now we're into the R6 and R5, which we skipped a few numbers in between there, so we'll see how that equates. They crammed so much technology into this camera. I feel like they really, really overpromised a lot of things. And that has led to issues such as overheating in the cameras, which is the biggest thing right now. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is, actually. That's just the way it is. Now, I consider Sony to be lucky when it comes to how they've been able to handle the situation, mainly because they hit the market pretty much first as being a full-frame mirrorless camera. You know, mainly because they had these growing pains such as overheating, lack of a flip-out screen, all that. They've had that already. And the thing about it is that being a pioneer in that segment of the industry, people were able to make the jump a little better. They're like, okay, I want to shoot Sony or I want to stay with DSLRs. But now, since mirrorless has really taken off, Sony's been in the game long enough to be able to mitigate a lot of these issues. The first Sony camera that I shot on was the Sony a6300. And shooting in 4K with that, it overheated like a champ. But I learned ways to mitigate, you know, open up the battery door, pull the screen away, put it in a small rig cage, whatever. So Sony in that regard has the advantage in that. And Canon will get there. I mean, I feel like if they play their cards right, they're a couple of firmware updates away from having a phenomenal video and photo hybrid camera. And I feel like they can do it. But let's talk about a thing that may make the whole brand fanboyism kind of relevant. Let's talk about the ecosystems. In my opinion, Canon has the best ecosystem of any camera brand, period. From lenses and lens compatibility and lens mount compatibility to all of the accessories that you can go to. You can get a Canon lens and it'll work on your DSLR. You can adapt it to their mirrorless. It'll work on their cinema line. And hell, if you want to buy a Red camera or any of these other cinema cameras, you can usually get them in Canon EF mounts. I find that to be a very, very advantageous thing to look for when you're looking at the camera brand. Another thing to consider is going to be upgradability. If your purpose is to shoot video, professional video, cinematography, you may want to look into, say, a Sony or a Canon versus a Nikon, mainly because Nikon does not have the upgradability to a cinema line camera. You may be able to find a third-party cinema camera somewhere, but Nikon is a photo company. They don't do video. Their photo cameras shoot video, but their video's not their focus. At least with Canon, you have like the C200s, you have the Reds, or Sony the FX9s, or the Sony Venice, even if you want to spend, you know, a freaking Ferrari for a camera. Upgradability is there for people who want to take their profession to the next level, which is something to definitely look for. As far as features and specs, all these cameras are going to be shooting relatively the same things, man. The autofocus with the Canon and the Sony's are pretty on par with each other. Dual pixel autofocus and Sony's autofocus are neck and neck. It really doesn't get any better than that. Autofocus has come a very long way when it comes to shooting not only photos but video as well. When people try to tout the whole, well, dual pixel is better or it doesn't matter. How are you getting your shots? Because if you're getting your shots the way you get your shots and they're in focus, they're crisp, and yeah, no one can tell you anything if you are doing your job the way that you were paid to. No matter your journey of how you get to your final product is what matters. Buying a camera is not a status symbol. This is not Apple. These aren't AirPods. None of that. Brand doesn't matter. Don't be fooled by overhyped marketing. Brands are going to have their growing pains, especially new to a particular niche of industry per se. Brand loyalty, that sounds very 2005. And ecosystem is something to look at when deciding a brand to buy over another. With that said, my name is Malcolm Eugene. Of course, if you like this video, make sure you like this video. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. Let's have a discussion because I'm pretty sure I'm going to piss off a lot of people with this video. With that said, I'm out.